our scholarship recipients, but first I'd like to talk a little bit about Dr. Daryl, and I'm going to hope that I say this right, Gwaltney, if I get it, okay. All right. He's going to talk about his perspective on the conception of the scholarship, its important support, and also recognize our recipients. And we have given $7,000 in scholarships since 2022. And so let me tell you a little bit about, if I can find that. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Gwaltney. He's been a part of Autism Tennessee's journey in a meaningful way, and we're honored to welcome him to the AfterBash stage tonight. As president of our board of directors, Daryl helped to bring the Captain Spectrum Scholarship to life, rooted in a simple but powerful belief: when we invest in people, we open the door to possibility. That scholarship continues to grow each year, creating opportunities and celebrating autistic individuals as they pursue what's next in their lives. Now serving as a professor of religion at Belmont University and church consultant, Daryl remains deeply connected to community, purpose, and the impact that we can have on one another. Daryl will share the story behind the scholarship and help us celebrate this year's recipients, a moment that reminds us of why this work matters and what it's all for. Help me to welcome Dr. Daryl Gwaltney Jr.
Isn't it wonderful and fascinating how our children change us? They bring out the best in us. They bring out parts of ourselves we didn't know we had within us. And also, they help us to see things in a new way. My now 34-year-old son, who's living independently and thriving professionally in Germany, of all places, he likes their order and predictability. When he was growing up, my wife and I said, isn't he quirky? He was just kind of quirky. He had odd practices that we didn't quite understand. And it wasn't until he was nearly a senior in high school that he was diagnosed as being on the spectrum. And then we began to understand things. And my wife and I began to be advocating for him and making sure that he had opportunities to thrive. And it was a wonderful time in his life, a time when we never imagined that he would live in Germany by himself. But my son helped to change me because there was a friend of mine who knew about how I was trying to understand my son more fully and create opportunities for him. This friend knew Babs Dearnham. And she said, Babs, there's somebody you need to know. And so this friend introduced me to Babs, and I found myself on the board of Autism Tennessee. And I was introduced to this community and served for 8 or more years on the board, for some of that period as board president. I am amazed, and there's a slide that we have, if you could show it, of Chris Miller with his, at his high school graduation. What a wonderful picture. I want to talk about this. You don't need to see my picture. Part of my professional life at Belmont University has been the person who meets with high school students every year, listens to their dreams and their hopes and all that they want to be, often with mom or dad sitting next to them. And then having the glorious joy of offering scholarship money to them so that education would be possible. I've done that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times over the years. I never met Chris. I learned about his story after his all too untimely passing. But when I saw this picture of Chris, the class of 2020, the smile on his face, and the hope of high school graduates everywhere, what's next in my life? Parents in the room, how many of you know that look on the face of your children? The wonder of it, and all of the future of it. So while I was serving on the board and we learned of Chris's passing, we learned about his initiatives and his hope to be kind and his Captain Spectrum identity that he created, and all the work that he did as a young man, even before he graduated from high school, to work against bullying, to reach out to people, to be kind. We felt deeply that his voice should not and could not be silenced. So in very quick order, we began to talk about what could we do to honor Chris and his work. And I don't know who had the idea originally, but we began to think about a scholarship named after him. The Be Kind Scholarship, the Captain Spectrum Scholarship. The scholarship, it reminds us every year of his vision, his life, his work, and the kind of things that no doubt, if he were still with us, he would be advocating very strong. You have an opportunity. Today, I bought a Starbucks Grande Cappuccino, which now goes for $6.11.
Boo!
You ever buy one of those kind of things? You do a little bit of the math, buy one of those every week, you spend $312 a year just buying a cup of cappuccino. You can do the math. You can think about all the different ways you spend money here and there throughout the year. And you can also ask yourself, how can I be a part of changing the lives of students? There's opportunities to give in a lot of ways. To Autism Tennessee, Paul was eloquent about the work of the auctions tonight and other ways that you can give in support as a monthly giver. You can also support this scholarship. I didn't plan to ask this, but I'm gonna ask this. This just comes to me right now as a question. I'm a young man whose mom and dad got married when they were 17 and 16, and they never graduated from high school. I'm the first generation college student in my family. Nobody could tell me how to do college. I had to figure it out. I worked 2 or 3 jobs, and I got scholarships. So here's a question. I'm really just kind of curious. If at some point in your life, you've benefited from a scholarship, or one of your children benefited from a scholarship that allowed them to go through education, would you just show a hand? Raise a hand. Look around the room. See? Yeah, that's what scholarships do. My encouragement for you today is to think deeply about how you can support the Be Kind Captain Spectrum Scholarship. And in that, support students as they enter their most important time of education out of high school. The wonderful thing about the Captain Spectrum Scholarship is that we don't have a limitation on the kind of school that the student has to go to. We want to recognize students that have a vision for continuing with their work. So this year, I have the pleasure and the opportunity to announce our 2 recipients of the Be Kind Captain Spectrum Scholarship for this year, while I encourage you to think really intentionally about how you might contribute to the next recipient in the coming year. So our 2 recipients this year are Adam Watts and Rochelle Shin. got some text here about that. Adam, you can read this, but I'll try to highlight it. A 35 on the ACT. Again, as a person who's been in academic leadership for a long, long time, a 35 is very, very rare. It shows how much potential Adam has. He wants to advocate for others. He's been volunteering, as you can see that, in Second Harvest and Community Resource Center, and he wants to major in computer science. I think I'll be interested to find out what Adam's doing in the next 10 years. It's been pretty amazing. Let's see Rochelle's again. Rochelle was bullied as a child, as a kid, and all the more for a scholarship in Chris's name, stood against that. She wants to help lead others through that. She participates in the school band, Best Buddies, and is active in different kinds of martial arts like Krav Maga and unified sports. And she wants to work as a therapist for children and young adults, in addition to learning ASL. Again, very excited to hear from you one day of what Rochelle is doing. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank you for your interest. Thank you for your support of Autism Tennessee and for the Be Kind Captain Spectrum Scholarship. Thank you all.